My name is Emily. I turned 35 this year. On a summer day when the cicadas were loud, I was called into the president's office. Mom? Oh, I mean boss. What is it? My mother, who is the president, fanned herself with a hand fan while gazing away. I've decided to hand the company over to your sister. You, the ugly one, are fired as of today. The bright summer sunlight from the window made me question for a moment if what I just heard was real. What? My voice came out involuntarily, high-pitched and dumb. You are fired. We don't need ugliness in our company. Leave by the end of this month. And with that, she snapped her fan shut and turned her attention back to her paperwork. Alone in the president's office with only the cicadas singing, I pondered the weight of her words. Just as I was doing so, she scolded. Are you still here? Get back to work. I backed out mechanically and closed the door behind me. Our company is a small 2-story building and a demolition company with about 10 employees. It's a family-run business with my mother as the president, my aunt and her husband as executive directors, and my mother's cousin and her husband as managing directors. However, almost all the real power was held by my mother. Originally, after graduating high school, I worked at a tax accountant's office, but at 25, my mother said they lacked an accountant and forced me to join our family's company. On top of accounting, I was burdened with all kinds of clerical and miscellaneous tasks. Sometimes I was even sent out for sales work. In short, I was the company's jack of all trades. Still, to not be a burden to others, I worked hard from morning till night and managed to handle my job for 10 years. On the other hand, my younger sister, Catherine, only worked for us for 2 years. Catherine had job hopped, always complaining that something just didn't feel right. After turning 30, as job conditions worsened, she just lounged around at home without even job hunting. Then our mother said, there is a suitable job for you, and made her a managing director at our company. I've been with the company for 10 years and I'm still just a regular employee. People were surprised at the disparity in treatment between me and Catherine, but I thought, it's just the way it is. My mother always favored Catherine ever since we were kids. My beautiful sister was given new clothes, toys, and endless praise. In contrast, I was given hand-me-downs from cousins and neighbors. When I was young, I didn't fully understand why this was happening. All I did was work hard, hoping to gain my mother's attention. No matter how good my grades were, she just briefly glanced at the report card. I even considered getting plastic surgery at one point. Seeing my distress, my aunt told me the reason for my mother's neglect during my high school years. I was told my father passed away, but in reality, he ran away with another woman the year Catherine was born. That woman was older and less attractive than my mother, and she resembled me in some ways. Your mother is high in pride. She couldn't accept that her husband was taken away by an older and less attractive woman, and she sees that woman in you. By the way, my aunt, who is my mother's younger sister, had a face that was neither particularly attractive nor unattractive, and resembled me. Well, I've had my issues with that person too, but she was good at her job. It was mostly seduction though. My mother took over the family business from my late grandfather at the age of 32 after my father left her. She greatly utilized her beauty to gain more and more clients, improving the company's performance. I believe the rise in the number of buildings needing demolition after surpassing their durability also played a part in this trend. As a result, neither my aunt's family nor my cousin's family could stand up to my mother. Recently, the cost of industrial waste disposal and transportation has become burdensome, affecting the balance between demolition costs and actual expenses. This is not just an issue in our industry. Our company has also been underperforming for a while. It has become quite a struggle even to pay our employees' salaries every month. During such challenging times, when my younger sister joined the company as an executive, I wondered how we would afford her salary. To my surprise, my mother said, "You'll need to reduce your salary to cover hers. We need to support each other, because we are family. Even if you cut my salary, we can't afford an executive's pay." When I made this valid point, my mother, as always, forcefully responded, "It's your job as a veteran to figure it out. Just do something about it." Timidly, I muttered, "Shouldn't Catherine start as a regular employee?" My mother glared at me, rebuking, "Who do you think you're talking to? And it's not your place to say such things." At that time, we lived in the same house. I contributed $1,000 monthly to household expenses, but my sister never contributed a cent. Of course, even after joining our company, she didn't contribute financially to the household. I, who had been helping out at home since childhood because of our busy mother, naturally took care of the house chores while my sister did nothing. "Sis, isn't dinner ready yet?" When I worked overtime, my sister would call, pressuring me for dinner. "I'm at work. Can't you just make something for yourself?" When I asked her this, she replied, "What should I make? The kitchen is your domain, right? I don't want to be scolded for using it without permission. Remember when you got mad at me before?" She constantly brought up past incidents as excuses, refusing to cook. My sister typically doesn't clean up after herself or put things back in their places. She still holds a grudge over the time I scolded her for this. Or perhaps she just uses that as a shield to do nothing. Often, I had no choice but to go home, prepare dinner, and then return to the office for overtime. Even my mother rarely cooked dinner and often ate whatever she wanted. However, recently, as Catherine increasingly went to entertain clients, I didn't have to prepare dinner as much, but the entertainment expenses were becoming a headache. This year, my mother turned 63 and she started to complain more about various body aches and the effects of drinking too much. It was during this period that I was summoned to the president's office and told, "I'm handing the company over to Catherine. As for you, the unattractive one, you're fired." It made sense for my mother to hand over the company to Catherine given her past actions. Come to think of it, Catherine was 32, the same age my mother was when she became president. My mother probably believed Catherine could use her beauty in the same way to secure business deals. However, being fired due to my appearance was unacceptable. Even if my salary was diverted to Catherine, it seemed to offer little benefit. When I confided in my aunt, it appeared that the news of Catherine becoming president had already spread among the employees. However, the news of my dismissal was a surprise even to my aunt. After some thought, she said, "I don't really understand why either. Apparently, Catherine has been saying behind your back that she dislikes how you're always offering to do things at the company and telling everyone that they can rely on you. Could that be one of the reasons?" Well, the reality is that whenever anyone relied on Catherine, she only did sloppy work, so eventually no one asked her for help. True, Catherine was inefficient in her work, She frequently missed deadlines, made mistakes over the phone, and had many typos. Despite having some experience in the corporate world, she seemed unaware of her incompetence, perhaps because she was always cuddled and had men cover for her due to her beauty. She showed no signs of reflection. My aunt, understanding this, said, "Well, you are right, but I think she sees you as an obstacle." She continued, "I can't believe they would fire you. The company wouldn't run without you." But she inherently couldn't oppose my mother. She didn't protest on my behalf. I felt disgusted to think that I'm related to those two who treat people like objects and this oddly unreliable aunt. "Well, I guess that means both my mother and sister hate me." "Well, your sister is indeed terrible, but maybe it's better for you to find a job elsewhere. It's a waste since you're so capable." There was a faint, familiar warmth in her eyes as I stood in the reddish hue of the summer dusk inside the company. I gazed distantly at a mirage and felt liberated. "You're right." This was the first time I had felt so refreshed and happy since joining the company. My aunt, slightly perplexed by my sudden cheerfulness, returned my smile with a melancholic one of her own. Time flew, and before I knew it, the end of the month, my resignation date had arrived. I went to the president's office on time, only to hear my mother and sister chatting happily, obvious to my presence. "That salesman definitely has a thing for you." "Ew, I'm not into bald guys though." I cleared my throat to get their attention, and only then did they turn to look at me. "What's up? If it's about dinner tonight, we don't need it." "Today is my last day. Thank you for everything." "Oh, it's today. I totally forgot." The thought of never having to see their faces again felt liberating. "I'll also be moving out of the house. Thank you." "That's great." As I closed the door emotionlessly, I heard my sister's voice from inside saying, "Now we don't have to see that gloomy face anymore." I bowed to myself to show them and left the company I had served for so long. A week later, after completing some paperwork, I checked my phone and noticed multiple missed calls from my mother. Shockingly, there were 14 missed calls in just 2 hours. Without returning the call, and with a bad feeling, I kept my phone on silent. By the next morning, the total missed call from her had reached 80, with the last one coming past 2 a.m. I didn't even consider calling her back. For 35 years, I had been controlled by her. I avoided her calls with all my might. I could have blocked her, but kept the calls coming in case I needed evidence of her obsessive behavior. For a while, nearly 100 missed calls came daily. At first, seeing the missed call was distressing, but over time, every missed call made me imagine my distressed mother, bringing me satisfaction. After a year, calls from her ceased. Over that year, I worked part-time while attending a correspondence school for tax accountants. I passed the exams and secured a job at a major tax accounting firm. Thanks to the experience gained from working at my mother's company, I was immediately valued in the new company. The 10 years of hard work had paid off, and I felt grateful. My new colleagues were all wonderful, and we worked together harmoniously. One day, while visiting a client near my mother's company, I noticed the office looked unkept with dusty windows and dead plants. On my way back, I unexpectedly ran into my mother leaving the company. "Ah!" Spotted me, she approached and instinctively expecting blame, I shielded my face with my bag. "Where have you been, Emily?" I suddenly felt sick and unconsciously shrank back. I called you several times. Did you change your phone? It seems that in my mother's mind, every mistreat she and my sister did to me never happened. After doing so much to me, I couldn't help but wonder how she could think this way. Oh, but I'm glad I was able to catch you. Look at our company. It's in such a terrible state, isn't it? I need you back in the office tomorrow. Don't worry, I'm not mad at you. Excuse me? I said I'll forgive you for leaving a year ago. Just come back to the office tomorrow. It took me a few seconds to comprehend what my mother was saying. Perhaps in her mind, she only sees the younger me, who would cry and long for her. Mom, I'm working at another company now, and I'm happy there. As I hesitated, my mother suddenly turned furious and shouted, What? Even though our company is struggling? I don't care about other companies. You belong to me. Wait a minute. Weren't you the one who suddenly fired me? What about Catherine? What happened to her? Honestly, I thought Catherine would be more useful. She ended up having an affair with 3 different clients and it got exposed. Our deals with them were instantly off. She should have been more discreet. So I kept her away from public view and had her do office work, but she's useless, neither cleaning nor handling the accounts properly. Because of her, we can't even afford to hire anyone else. After ranting for a while, my mother turned to me with a smile. That's why it's your turn now, Emily. Our office has been in chaos since you left. I'd like you to take responsibility. I had properly prepared a handover manual before I left and had explained everything to Catherine. But I guess Catherine never took that and my mother probably never listened or pretended to forget. This was not my responsibility anymore. They always do this, blame others and make them clean up their mess. I bit my lower lip, recalling the kind faces of the people I work with now, reminding myself that their world is the normal one and I was stuck in a bizarre one. I vowed not to be pressured by this anymore. It was you, the company president, who fired me, right? My changed tone seemed to startle my mother for a moment. You fired me because I was ugly. Remember you said that? That's what you said, wasn't it? Before I realized it, a crowd had gathered, perhaps curious about our argument. Did I say that? Are you sure you didn't mishear? No, I heard it clearly. You'd hand over the company to my beautiful younger sister and fire me, the ugly older sister. I didn't understand that time. I worked my bones off for the company for 10 years, and after only 2 years, you suddenly decided to hand the company to Catherine, who barely worked. I questioned your judgment. As I clearly laid out the situation, the crowd began to murmur. Some of the onlookers said, Really? Is that true? Is she seriously your mother? I can't believe you two are related. Some people started recording videos, but my mind was too consumed to notice. My face must have been flushed. My mother's face turned pale under the critical glances showered on her from all sides, and she began to sweat profusely. Emily, there's been misunderstanding. Let's go inside for now. Misunderstanding? What are you talking about? If you didn't say those things, then state clearly here that you didn't, right? As my mother stayed silent, the surrounding people began to murmur, Oh, she's silent. So it's true and unbelievable. Suddenly, it seemed a switch flipped inside my mother. She shouted, Shut up! It's all because you are so ugly and gloomy. Ugly people should know their place and listen obediently to beautiful people. That's the only thing they're good for anyway. People were so shocked by her words that they immediately began uploading the videos. The video's thumbnail caption, read something like, "Old lady says ugly people should obey the beautiful." This video spread to my mother's business contacts, and in no time, every company started terminating their dealings with her. It seems that during the year after I left the company, my mother had been involved in various shady activities, like illegal dumping and falsifying financial records. As the video spread, everyone seemed eager to cut ties with her. Naturally, the company went bankrupt. My mother and sister, having lost their source of income, once visited my apartment. But of course, I didn't open the door. Eventually, the two of them moved to an old 45-year-old apartment with no bath, living in fear of debt collectors and surviving on part-time jobs. Catherine tried to find a man who could support her financially, but she would fail and end up being so disliked by her colleagues, she had to switch jobs frequently. As for my mother, the uploaded video went viral, so her co-workers kept their distance. She silently walked alone. As for me, I found a boyfriend at my new workplace. He may not be handsome, but he's very sincere, and he said he loves me for my diligent work ethic. We are planning to get married soon. I genuinely feel thankful for having lived earnestly, enjoying my days now.